Okay, so I am making this guide to help pretty much anyone who wants to try and get into character swapping for DMC5. It's not going to be that simple. You are going to have some knowledge on how to use Blender, but there are some great tutorials on the internet of how to use basic commands like grabbing, resizing, and rotating. You are going to have to be familiar with how to pose models, or at least edit them. And yeah, I'm not going to really cover texture stuff in this video because that's a whole other can of worms. I do have a couple of videos on that, and I can just make a new video on how to properly apply textures to your model once you get it working in game. So what we're going to do is we're going to get started. So for starters, what you want to do is decide the character that you want to work on. For me, I want to do Dante. And you're going to go to wherever you have your RE tool programs, and you have all the files for the game extracted. So go into just the chunk 00, none of the patches, because we're working with the base game, and get till you keep opening folders until you get to the 64 folder. Then what you're going to want to do is go to the character folder, choose player, and then choose whichever player or character you want to work with. Usually the 3D models are just in like the base file, not in the dirt file, not in the mid dirt or the COO file, because COO refers to the DLC files. So you're going to want to go into whatever base file you go into, choose the body file, and then choose the mesh file. You're going to want to copy that and then paste it to wherever you are working with. You never want to use the base files from the RE engine extract point, because that'll just be messy and you'll lose those files if you accidentally delete them or something while cleaning up your whips. I have a separate folder for all my work in progress mods, my whips, and I just keep them all there and delete them as I finish. So yeah. So, once you have that all set up, what you're going to want to do is open up Noesis. That's basically the program that we use to change the dmc5 format to a format that we can work with in Blender. So we're going to want to select your 3D model file, the mesh file, and using the Noesis RE engine extract plugin, you're going to want to go to select your file, ignore the MDF because you're not going to need that, we're not editing those, and that just displays the textures within Noesis, so it's not that important right now. And so what you're going to want to do is go to File, Export, and then choose FBX. You'll see all these other programs, all these different types of extensions. I'm not sure if FBX is the default or if I just set it to be that myself, but just export it. And there you go. It's all exported. So what you're going to want to do is open up Blender. And you're just going to close out of all the startup stuff. Oh, I bumped my mic. And press A to select all, and then either the X key or the delete key to just delete all the default startup junk. And then what you're going to want to do is go to Import, FBX, and go into wherever you are working on your mod. And so mine is already right here, so White Boy Summer Tutorial, and choose the PL 100 mesh out. It's just going to be whatever PL, whatever number you're working at, mesh out.fbx. And then what you're going to do is wait for it to import. Get a nice, zoom in on it so that way you can have a nice view of what you're working with. And before we start, we're just going to look at the different types of materials that we have to work with. So most characters usually only have 4, maybe 5, 3 at the least materials to work with. So for Dante, you can see that he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he has the body, the coat parts, the hand, and the leg. And the materials are just the amount of different textures that they use in order to make up the look of his body. And that's different from the submeshes. So for what we're going to do is we're going to figure out how many parts the model that we want to work with is. And to do that, you just import the model. Mine is an FBX. I already have it pre-set up, the White Boy Summer outfit. I'm just going to move it off to the side so that way you can see it. And as you can see, I already have mine all set up with what materials I want to use, but I have 3 different submeshes, so I'm going to figure out what 3 materials I want to use. And for mine, I decided to use the coat materials, the body materials, and the leg materials in order to make up all the different parts of my model. And so then what you're going to want to do is just trust the process. You're going to want to use the right viewport window, and then you're to select everything, all your submeshes, but not the armature. And you're going to want to press Ctrl J to join it all. And once it's all joined, what you're going to want to do is be sure that your model is posed, sized, and positioned correctly in the exact same way or close to similar as to how the base model is. And in order to do that, you're going to need to basically be aware of just how to use the posing tools in Blender and work with the different armatures to get it to be the right size and shape. So, in order to get it so that way it can move in the game, what we're going to do is we're going to select the mesh that we joined. And then we're going to select one of the meshes that we are trying to put into the game. And then we're going to switch from object mode to weight paint. And then we're going to go to weights, transfer weights, and then we're going to change from active layer to by name. And this will just be so that way it transfers all the different weights from all the different bones of the original model to our model. And so if we turn off the bones, we can see that there are different types of colored highlights along the model, and these are the different weights of the mesh. And this is a rough transferring of the weights, but we're going to clean it up. So then we're going to repeat that process for every single submesh that we have. So once we transfer the weights of the model from the game, from the model with what we're going to that we're going to put in the game, what we want to do is just clean up the weights a little bit, because for me, I don't want any of these to be affected by physics bones such as the coat or the shirt, because his shirt and his coat will move on its own according to the wind or how he moves. So in order to do that, we're just going to go into weight paint. I am going to extend this window so that way I can see it better. And then I'm just going to remove all of these ones that say coats and color cloth just by pressing the minus button until there are no more coat cloths. And this can be a pretty tedious process, but eventually you'll get it all done. And then you have to unfortunately repeat that for every other model. And it's annoying, but it's not the end of the world. It can get done. So I'll just jump cut to when I finish this. So once we've got all the physics cloths, physics weights that we don't want deleted, the physics weights just depends on what type of model you have and what you want it to do. For me, I don't want any physics to be applied to it. What you're going to want to do is start to clean up the weights, because the weights do transfer a little messy. I mean, they look very machine done, they're not very smooth on the models, and this can be fixed. This can be very much so improved. So, in order to do this, what we're going to do is, for each model that we're transferring, I'm just going to do the base body one because that'll just show the most change, is we're going to go into edit mode. Be sure that the entire mesh is selected. You can actually do this by pressing A, and the entire thing will be orange. What you're going to want to go to do is merge vertices by distance, and then you just press enter. It'll automatically handle it for you. And then once you go into weight paint, you're going to want to go to smooth, and that'll just sort of clean everything up to smooth it out. And you're going to want to set it to be for all groups down in the corner, and then at a factor of 5, which it already is, at 5 iterations. This will just give you a nice clean smooth. It'll look similar to how the weights are cleaned within the game. And so yeah, you're going to want to do that on all 3 of your models. And then you're going to want to clean the weights at a limit of 0.010. And again, do it for all groups. And after you normalize all of your weights, what you're going to want to do is go to limit total. And this is just because of the way that RE Engine works. I'm not exactly a scientist on it, but you're going to limit all groups totals to 8, just so that way they'll be able to, appear and work in game. Just press enter, and you can see down there it says 8 vertex weights limited. And so that's how you do it. And you just repeat that process for all of your different sub-meshes that you're using. So again, I only have 3 for the 3 different materials. So I'm just going to repeat that, and I'll show you what you need to do after that when I'm back. So once you're done transferring all of your weights over and cleaning them all up, what is left to do is to just copy over another copy of the in-game model. I always bring over 2 because of, the one that we joined at the beginning, this one, and the one that we want to work with in the game. And so what you're going to do then is just delete all of the meshes that you are copying over. For me, that is just going to be 1, 4, and 6. And then delete any vertexes that you do not need. So I don't need the vertexes for pretty much everything, actually. I don't need his gloves, I don't need his hands, I don't need the buttons. So you're just going to, again, use click, shift to select all, and then go into edit mode, and everything should all be selected, and just press delete all the vertices. And it's all gone. And so now, it's what you've all been waiting for. Transferring all of the meshes to the armature, so that way you can put it in the game. So what you're going to want to do is just select your different meshes, which are already weight painted and posed and taken care of and all that fun stuff. The fun stuff that I keep glossing over because it's fun. Not really. And then you're going to control click on the root, which is the armature, and make sure that it's highlighted yellow instead of orange, because if it's orange, it won't transfer correctly. And you're going to right click on the viewport, which is this whole area, and go to parent and choose with empty groups. And just like that, everything is all grouped up and ready to go. And so you're just going to click and drag and hold and unclick, all that fun stuff, and export it to an FBX. And then you're just going to export it to your target location. You can give it a different name. I usually don't. I just delete that out in mesh. And you're going to want to be sure that only armature and mesh are selected. Choose selected objects at the top. Unselect the bake animation option, open up the armature option, and unselect add leaf bones. And then you're good to export it to an FBX. So once that is all done, what you're going to want to do is just click off of it and then go back into it. And you should see your new mesh in there now. As you can see, it's working. It's also loading some of the textures that I do have set for it. Some of them are a little glitchy though. And then what you're going to want to do is File, Export, and then choose dmc5 mesh. And you export. And then it's going to ask you which mesh to export over. Just be sure that it has the same name as the mesh that you copy pasted in at the beginning from the RE toolpath. Click OK. Usually when it says something like that with warning, model bones do not match mesh, it usually means that there is a mesh that is not weight painted, or there is a weight that is removed, but that's okay. Sometimes it turns out okay even without that. So once you got that all ready, it's time to actually make the mod directory. I'm not going to go over all the fancy texture stuff. I'm just going to throw it into the game with whatever textures it loads onto it, and whatever is on there is on there. So just go into your mod directory, create a new folder. I'm just going to call it Weight Boys Summer. Click on it, and then this is the fun part, doing all the file directories. It's natives, 64, character, player, PLO 100 underscore Dante, PLO 100 underscore body. Oh boy. So you can tell I've done this so many times because I just have this down by heart. And then you're going to go back to your whip folder or wherever you're keeping that. Choose the one that says PLO 100 mesh out mesh, and then with all the numbers at the end, that's the dmc5 file type. Copy that, paste it, delete all that extra stuff till it just says PLO100 mesh. And so we're good to test the model. Open up Fluffy. If you have it already open, just refresh the mod list. And uninstall any mods that might conflict with it. I know I do have a mod on here somewhere that conflicts with it. This one. And then just scroll until you can find it. Should be right here. Select it. And now you're good to open up your game. So, this is me doing this in post, but as you can see, it's moving around, and there's a little bit of an issue with the right hip, right thigh area, but that can just be easily fixed by going back into Blender. See this? That's a straight piece of weight that was painted there. Changing the mode to subtract and being sure that your brush is small enough that it doesn't subtract from the main weights, and just painting over it with the default weights. And as you can see, that should fix it. That's basically the process. It's just a lot of throwing whatever you can do at the wall and seeing what sticks, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. It's a little tedious sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't work out right away, and sometimes it does, and you feel great for it. But at the end of the day, it's just down to, you know, your ability to properly pose up the model, get all the weights done properly, and then just getting into the game. So if you have any questions, feel free to PM me. If I'm sending this to you, you probably already know my Discord. Sorry if this was a little weird or awkward. I'm still not used to recording tutorials. But yeah, if you have any questions about modeling and anything, just ask me.